and welcome to MAHA Moms podcast. I'm Dr. Lisa, and we have Christine with us. And today we have a guest, Lori Keith. I'm so excited about our guest today. She has an amazing resume, so I'm going to read a little bio about her so you can understand why I am so excited. First, she is a massage therapist, and she has her sole office, a therapeutic massage practice since 2004 in Toms River, New Jersey, which is where we are, pretty much. And she also has her certification in clinical aromatherapy, and she has completed over 275 hours, and that's super exciting. But she has held so many positions, professional positions, that it is just really impressive. She's been on the New Jersey Board of Massage and Bodywork Therapy, on the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards. She's been a part of the American Massage Therapy Association national positions, which is the AMTA. She's been in the National Chapters Relations Committee, in the work group. She's been on the Commission of Candidacy, and it goes on and on. President's Council Moderator-elect and Moderate. She has also been on the AMTA New Jersey chapters, since we're from Jersey, and that list is huge. She's been in the immediate past president. She's in the government relations chair. She's been on the chapter president. So you get it, first vice president. She's just been on the board of the education committee, the website administrator. She's just very involved in her community. And she's gotten awards: National Distinguished Service Award for AMTA, National Outstanding Government Relations Committee, large chapter, AMTA Outstanding Government Relations Activist, the President's Award. Just an amazing resume. I love her too. We go to church together, so we also have a very spiritual and Christian side. So that's also beautiful about Lori as well. She strives to recognize and respect everyone's individual's talents and attributes, and works to establish a harmonious and productive environment in a cohesive teamwork of benefiting the massage and the bodywork profession. So welcome, Lori. Such a great resume.
You didn't have to read all that.
I know, but I wanted everyone to just understand how amazing you are.
Well, thank you.
I want to begin today with Lori's MAHA story, and it begins with her childhood, and it's a great story. It has a lot of ups and downs, and some sad moments and some happy moments. So it's a happy sad. So we're going to start with her childhood. Tell us, Lori, what brought you to aromatherapy and massage and, MAHA moms?
Well, as a child, and at the time I didn't realize it, but it was a lot of sensitivities to different things. And I ran high fevers when I was small. And I was born in 1960. So back in the early 60s, and constantly put on tetracycline for that. And the over medication of that, it wasn't that I had an allergic reaction at that time, but it was just that over medicating of constant with these high fevers, that as I got older, it started to just have that effect of everything in my life. I started with the migraine headaches. I started sensitivity. I looked at, I'm a teenager, let me get makeup, and putting makeup on my face, I broke all out. I had, with the migraines in high school, the doctors told me I was allergic to fluorescent lighting. Oh. So that was, so everything that happened, I wound up then at 16 years old. My grandfather had caught the flu, and then I caught that from him. The virus settled on the nerve in my left ear. That had plugged up. And then I started where I had the dizziness, and the vertigo was so bad that I started vomiting. And they gave me a drug for the vomiting, Compazine. And the following day, I was laying in the bed and I'm swallowing, and I felt like I couldn't swallow. And this is at 16 years old. So I go to the top of the stairs and I said to my parents, I'm like, I can't breathe. My mom looked at me, and it was like on a Sunday, I think, because my dad was home. And it's the only time that he's run through a red light with me in the car. And he got me in the car. They rushed me to the hospital. And it went into almost that I looked like I was having a stroke, because it started to work down my body, that my body was contracting. And the what they had given me was not enough. They had to do the IV. And I guess it was a Benadryl type, Benadryl antihistamine. And once they got the IV in me, it was like my body just real and it stopped. So I realized like, wow, these are pretty severe, reactions. So growing up and getting old, then they found I had mitral valve prolapse, and they thought it was a heart murmur. With the mitral valve prolapse, now every time you go for dental work, you're on a prescription of amoxicillin. So that's twice a year. Now you're getting over medicated with that antibiotic. So it got to the point where, and I'm going to be totally honest, I mean, into my 30s, after I got married at 21, I'd go and tell them I was medicated and I lied, because I'm like, I'm done taking this stuff. I will be careful with, my mouth, and I'm not taking these antibiotics. I stopped taking them. So that was, I didn't want any part of it. Right after I graduated high school, I got a job with a chiropractor up in Hasbrook Heights and started to learn about your innate intelligence and how the body can heal itself. And it's all about what you put in your temple, and then treating your temple as it is, such that God gave us such an amazing body, the way everything works. And if you don't start taking care of yourself, it's not just taking this magic pill and putting it in your mouth. So I started to learn. I started to go to the chiropractic seminars. And then once I was married, my husband knew. I was like, you can't get anything, no chemicals, no nothing. Because back then, it was McDonald's and, you just bought the stuff, laundry detergent, and I would buy something and I'd break out, I'd have terrible reactions to it. I'm trying to think any surgery that I had lumps in my breast I had to have removed. Anytime I had surgery, they said, we got to pump you full of an antibiotic because you have the mitral valve. They would give me something new. They tried Cipro one time. And I'm like, I never had that before. Oh, you'll be fine. Lying on the gurney, waiting to go in for surgery. And all of a sudden you just feel those spiders crawling up your back, and my throat started to close, and I'm calling for the nurse. And they're like, you're having a reaction. And then they wanted me to come back for this surgery. And I said, if you don't do it today, I'm not coming back. So I had to sign a waiver that, my body was in this trauma. They pumped me full of so much Benadryl that after this was same day surgery, my husband's like, come on, we're ready to go. And I was like drugged out of my mind that like I couldn't function because they gave me so much of that. So it was like over the years, I felt like it was getting progressively worse, my reactions. And I said this to Dr. Lisa recently. We were just talking about it. To me, it's not a curse, it's God's gift. Because since I was born, these sensitivities, all these things that I was sensitive to has come out, that they're toxic. They're toxic to the body. And for me, like what great a gift is that my body goes, yep, nope, like I'm not taking that. And for me, it was having to be an advocate for myself and learning about the different things so that I could stand up to the medical establishment and say, no, you're not putting that in my body, or I'm not using that. And then as I got older, we were at a convention in Colorado, and I love to dance, and I started dancing barefoot on a rug. And all of a sudden, and I went into anaphylactic shock, that by the time the ambulance got there, I had no blood pressure. They got me to the hospital. Now I'm pumped full of epinephrine and Benadryl. And my body was shaking so bad. And I went into a secondary reaction. And to this day, I don't know, like I was dancing barefoot on a rug. I didn't eat anything strange. I wasn't exposed to anything different. Thank God my husband was there, that he took off to Rite Aid and got Benadryl that I swallowed quickly. But so then it became like, really, this is a life and death thing. Like I really have to watch what I'm doing. And I'm trying to think what year that was. I started massage school in 2003. And then I think it was 2000, maybe 7 or 8, I met Mei Ming Racer, and she was a certified clinical aromatherapist. And she said to me, Laura, with all your allergies, start learning about essential oils, because you can actually ingest certain oils that will, kill bacteria and kill virus, and in treating yourself so that you don't have to rely on lab made pharmaceuticals that you have this reaction with. And once I started reading about it, I was like, yeah, I'm in. I have to learn. And then, me and the person I am, I organized the whole certification class. I got people to come. So I actually organized the event. It was a year long, 4 weekends and then study in between. But in diving into it like that, I got to learn so much. I mean, the chemistry is tough, but in learning how the body responds. And the most important thing that I found, these things that I use for myself that I have no reaction to are God given. These were not made in a lab. These were not something that somebody, created. This is all from plants and roots, and the distilling of the plants, and the resin from the fruit, and it's amazing what they can do. And they're so volatile that you don't have to use a lot. So I was like, this is for me. And every time I tried anything, I had no allergic reaction. It did what it was supposed to do. And then I said, all right, I need to go for certification, because I need to learn the clinical part of aromatherapy, helping with, not only aches and pains, because that's what I deal with clients every day, but depression, anxiety, a lot of emotional issues that just the sense can affect. So, that's what brought me to the certification in clinical aromatherapy. The massage was, I was working for chiropractors and doing medical billing for chiros. And, with chiros, it's this is the most difficult billing ever. So if you learn that, you could bill for anybody. But I saw firsthand how the medical sick care system discriminated against the natural things that,
Say
a
that again. Say that again. Say that again so the people in the back can
Am I
hear
allowed
you.
to say that? But
Yeah, because it's true.
that was something I just worked for them. I wasn't, a chiropractor, but in seeing that they're taking their hands, they're not injecting anything. They're not, this is all with their God-given talent, their calling. And to put their hands, like I was rear-ended in an accident, had whiplash. I didn't, because the hospitals, they're going to throw you in a collar. They're going to give you muscle relaxers. Hello. Painkillers. I was working with a chiropractor, and it's like, no, start treatment right away. You learn that, all the right things to do. And it's like, he's not putting anything in my body. Like, I'm getting better. And it's just all this natural care that's what pulled me into the whole alternative way of health. And when I saw that I wasn't winding up in the ER with the reactions, and that, my body was, I'm like, plus I never smoked because I was allergic to it. I don't drink. I mean, I never, in school, and then you went, I'll never do that again, but never drank heavily. And so I feel like my body, when you put something foreign like that in it taps out and just does. And I'm like, I thank God every day for instilling that in my body when I was created, because nothing could be more divine than to say, hey, all those man-made things that bother me. So
And I could add, I know that, I can't tell you about her health, but I can say that I worked with her, and she's one of the healthiest people. I've looked at her blood, I've looked at her work, and I was like, I think you might actually get the award of the person that has the best results, because I was like, I was kind of dumb, like stupefied, because I was like, well, all the antibiotic therapy, but because she couldn't have any of this stuff. My point is, she hasn't had as much toxins in her body as the average, the average person. So I may have learned it young too, but the average person isn't getting this information, or getting a medical crisis where they're like, I can't do drugs, I can't, do the bath and body lotions, I can't do the perfumes. correct? Like she's super healthy when we look at her.
I don't know.
Well, you are compared to like what I mean, I'm just saying when I look at your blood work and things you've brought me and comparing to the 30 years experience I have with it, you are. And I think that that gift, you're right, that God gave you that gift to keep you away from all the toxic stuff is my point. And then I think the aromatherapy, I remember I said that's why I got very intrigued. I was like, what, tell me more about this. I think, and you could agree, Kristen, you could put in your input here, it's confusing at which aromatherapies you can use, right? I just dumped out my son's, he had a bag and they just smell so bad. I always get a reaction. So I was like, I'm done with these because he bought them on Amazon. And I'm like, you need to get high grade. I don't know where you bought this, but this is a no-no. So I threw them out and I said, we'll go over the ones that you like and then we'll make sure that they're high grade. But so tell us about that because I find that super confusing for
Well, an essential
most
oil.
people.
Yeah, essential oils. The thing is, when you learn the clinical, you get your certification in clinical aromatherapy. It's so important because, not to, but for hemorrhoids, for instance, lavender for burns. It's amazing to use. Inflammation on the skin, but if it's adulterated, most companies, what they do is it's like, well, you've got, a pint of lavender, but if we adulterate it with alcohol and now we have a gallon, we're going to sell it cheaper, but it's adulterated. And they can still say, if there's only 3% oil in that bottle, they can call it natural, all a pure essential oil, which it's not.
So they can
You
use those
take
words like pure, natural.
Right. So if you take like the health food store, depending on what brand, a lot of them are adulterated because people will say that, well, I could get it for $10 and not pay $40. Well, if it's adulterated with alcohol and you go to put that on hemorrhoids, you're going to be seeing stars. So any oil, if you don't know the maker where it's created, you're at risk to then I would never, ever, ever ingest any oil if you don't know where it's coming from and whether it's adulterated or not. So that's something that, I'm not allowed to prescribe. So I only share my stories and the research that's done on oils, but you definitely have to do your research on where those oils are distilled, how they're created, before you start using them, And my husband had high sugar, and there's an oil called ocotea, which is in the cinnamon family. And we all know, they say with cinnamon, with sugar. And he would put it under his tongue and it was lowering his sugar. So he had some other issues. And because he was like, what? I'm not putting that under my. And then when he saw the results, his snoring, all different cholesterol. And, as he started using the oils, it became like that was all we had in our medicine cabinet. And then my grandkids, I have 9 grandchildren, and they all started to learn, oh, I fell down, I have this bump. Where's the helichrysum? Lisi, where's the helichrysum? They all knew what oils to use for, black and blue, the bleeding, whatever trauma thing for them. They all come to me, headache, and it's all natural. I tell them before they pop the pill or start using something, try that. And to this day, the kids, when my grandkids come in my house, and even when I mail a package to my daughter, they're like, it smells like, they call me Lisi, like, or Gia, it smells like her house. And I'm like, I love that they know, my house is toxin free. And no matter what it is, they ask, like, this is what I'm going to use. They have the oils in their cabinets, and it's like, hey, if you can't, I'll ship it to you, but don't start taking anything from Rite Aid or CVS. And, I've shared my knowledge about that. So, that's, I got off track, I think, there with, I don't know what we were talking about, but.
Oh, no, that was good.
So
Christine, I know that you're thinking mast cell, right? You're thinking,
yeah.
You're telling this story, and I have so much in common. Yes, I have the breast lumps removed and the reaction to the anesthesia, and like we could go on forever. So yeah, we're gonna talk after this for sure.
We're gonna
let's
have to
try
go
hook
on
these two up.
vacation for a few days.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so parallel. It's crazy, but it does make sense. I'm wondering, do you treat anaphylaxis with the oils?
Well, I've never had because I do carry an EpiPen too, but I never, after that in Colorado, knock on wood, And praise God, because
Oh.
praise God, I have never had that happen again.
Good.
So it's not something that, like, it happens so quick that I haven't done enough research on what they see with the oils with, anaphylaxis and with that reaction, because I really didn't know what I was reacting to.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's something. Pharmacist that I had as a client, he said it's definitely something you ate internal, and I'm like,
No, it was carpet. You absorbed it through your feet, and it was the chemicals.
and it came up and it worked up my body. And by the time I got on the elevator to get downstairs to find my husband, because of course he was, I'm dancing, he's outside having a cigar with all the guys. And I looked at my hands and I couldn't close them. They were so blown up, like I couldn't bend. And I never had that happen before. And then the one guy, Marty, he was on the board and he kept saying to me, "You're fine, you're fine." I'm like, "No, look at my back." And he lifted my shirt and he goes, "You have silver dollar hives all over your back." And then I thought the ambulance got there quick, but they said like 20 minutes went by. I had passed out. I got the Benadryl in me, but after that, that was the first time that I experienced that lights out. And I thought it happened so quick. And like you say, Christine, like we're so alike. Well, think about how many millions of people out there have the same story that we do. And the doctors have told them they're kooks, that they're crazy. And I know that with fibromyalgia, I see so many clients that come in. It's like, yeah, the doctor, doesn't believe, and I have this overall pain, and it's all about myofascial tissue, but they're told they're crazy. And what are they put on? Antidepressants. It's like,
that's what happened to me.
So
Before I got my diagnosis, I have this squeezing. Oh, you need an antidepressant. What? I'm not depressed. Yeah, you definitely in this day and age have to become your own advocate. And, it's dangerous. Honestly, it got to the point where seeking medical help was getting dangerous for me, that I needed to know more than them. And
I totally agree. Yeah.
So,
and even with the homeopathy, with that and meeting Lisa, it was what had happened in 2022 January, 2021 of December. We had that second Delta variant of COVID, and my husband and I are both extremely opinionated about the stick. And I was allergic to the flu vaccine. So I said, there is no way. And I had a hard time with masks, going to the store and seeing people with it under their nose. We were told in the massage industry, they keep it on in the room, but then when they're face down, they take it off. And then when they roll over you take the mask and give it back to them and they put it on face up. Well, I mean, common sense. Come on, guys. Like, I am not in an 80-degree massage room going to put a mask and one of those plastic shields over my face. I'm not doing it. And, I just made the decision that I am not going through with that. I told my husband, I said, you make your own educated decision. But he saw all the books and all the data and all the research I was bringing into the home. And he's like, I'm not doing it either. And he wound up getting that COVID. And then me, him, and my son, who was living here at the time, all three of us got it. And I'll tell you, it was bad. I lost my taste, lost my smell. We were in 8 days we were into it. And I was not giving Scott a high enough dose of ivermectin. I had that, but I didn't have all the other things in my arsenal. And
from us too. I mean,
what?
It wasn't easy to get.
Oh no, I know.
Yeah, it was impossible to get. I have a whole story behind how I was running to pharmacies, and
no, they wouldn't fill them. Yeah, they would not fill it. Yep.
Yeah.
It was like, you're in the closet. It's like, no, can't tell nobody. No, we got that. And, he started like talking foggy. So then friend of mine, the chiropractor, his mother-in-law actually had one of the pulse oximeter. Is that what pulse ox?
Pulse ox.
She dropped it off. I put it on his finger and it read 44. And I'm thinking he wouldn't be like 44. Yeah. And I put it on mine. It was in the 90s. And I'm like, wait a minute. so then I kept trying it and I said, all right. And then, people said to me, like, he needs oxygen, his oxygen is too low. So, I mean, to this day, my regret is calling 911. They came, tested, he was at 66. They put him on the ambulance. At that time, it was the big, second wave of it. So no visitors in the hospital. I was not allowed to go with him. I wasn't able to contact him for the whole first day. They got him in there and they just started pumping him full of steroids and all different kinds of drugs. And the second day, they gave him a flu shot, which don't ask me why. Yep. And you have no say when, through all of that situation, my rights and his rights were totally stripped away from us. He went in there, he said, no remdesivir and no vent. And that second day, they started remdesivir on him for 5 days. And I begged the pulmonologist, I said, do not give it to him. He said, that's our protocol in here. If you don't like it, you're going to have to take him somewhere else. And then 5 days went by and I was trying to move him somewhere else. And it was when, hospitals were filled and cafeterias had beds in them. So it was nothing I could do. And I slowly watched him given fentanyl, restrained, put in a diaper. As a 62-year-old tough truck driver that was in the operating engineers union for 37 years, they stripped his life away. And the week before, he started, calling and apologizing like I knew he was giving up. And they just had beaten him down to nothing. And when they called me that he had a cardiac arrest from fentanyl and midazolam, the units that it would send anybody into cardiac arrest, they said, we're doing CPR. Do you want us to continue? And I said, yeah, I want to see him alive. Went flying down there, and then they had him on the vent and he was unresponsive. So from him walking out to the ambulance 27 days before, that's when I got to see him the next time, was on the vent. And him passing, you make that decision because the CPR was 25 minutes. He was considered then brain dead. We were soulmates who were married for 41 years and we did every little thing together. And to see that, I was like, God's hands are in this, because as devastating to me as it was, I felt like God was showing me that this isn't right. This is not right for humanity. This is just not a kind thing. Like, for all I struggled with, and now how they took my husband from me, I felt like God, was up there going, this is, and I feel like, you move into your purpose. And when I had met you, Lisa, and Krista at church had said, you got to talk to Lisa because she does the functional medicine. After the grief, your body just, especially him being my soulmate, my body just tapped out. And I went into that, hibernation through everything and just struggling with life itself. So then in meeting you and saying like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to get back on track. We're going to do breast thermographies. We're not going to squish you. And I was so on board with it all that I thought, I need help. Like, I really need help. And then when I went to you and you were like, no, you're really, your blood work is, and it was so encouraging because I felt like, I was so lost. And I really thought that what I went through really destroyed me, that I'm like, okay, I have to get back together. But I still stayed with my belief through all that no sticks for me. Marching in Trenton alongside of you, with the vaccine and the Gardasil one. I hate even using that word. And everybody said to me, it's a 30-degree day. Why are you marching in Trenton? You don't have kids. I said, I have 9 grandkids.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
you know what? Like, marching for that, me out in the cold, I don't do well in the cold. And I was out there snot running and screaming with a megaphone and using a porta-john and fighting for what was right, and seeing all the different ethnic backgrounds and the thousands of people that came together that day. And I thought, wow, like, to me, God was going, see, Laura, you guys have a voice. Like, you have to speak up for what's good for humanity and not what's good for the pocketbook of all these, big pharma. So I feel like my whole life has been, God, and I go, no, I'm not going to do that. And I told Lisa, like, I feel like I get hit with a brick, like, Lord, no, you're going to do that. And now it's like everything I do, I told my husband on the day he passed, I said, I will honor you in some way, whether small or large, every single day, because there's something here that needs to be figured out. And I do that every day. I do something and I think that's for you, Scott. That's for you, Scott. And I'm meeting, like I met you, Lisa, and I met you, Christine. And I feel there's people being put in front of me and put into my life that are like-minded in knowing that, let's go the alternative route. We don't need to run, let's look at what dyes are in things. Let's look at the flavorings. Like, look at where all this stuff comes from. Like, yeah, oh, we're going to buy spinach, we're going to buy organic. And so I feel that I'm finally, after 3 years of deep-seated grief, I'm finding my purpose. And my purpose to me is it's education. It's not about career, making money. It's about educating the public so that they don't have to go through what I have lived through in the last 65 years. I mean, learning how you can deal, how you can ask questions, how you can get medical advocacy so that you're not silenced and your loved one doesn't have to die alone, restrained to a bed. And if I can help one person that comes to me and says, thank you so much because you made a difference, and then it's all worth it. So, okay. Now I'll let you.
I was like wiping my tear. Like I was trying at one point, I was like, I'm gonna start crying. It's a beautiful story. As I told you, it's happy, sad.
And it's hard to talk about without crying. Like now, 3 years later, I can talk about it. But like, just in meeting you and like, it's like, okay, it's a new beginning. And I don't have to say, oh, I got to, totally change my life. So, I feel all of it comes into play. And that's where I look at, like, we need this community of like-minded individuals. Like the homeopathy is so important, which I can't wait to start working with you, Christine.
I can't even tell you how many remedies have come into my mind listening to your story.
And there's like,
I feel like this is your next step for sure.
Yes. And I want to learn like more herbal tinctures and herbal salves. And, for me, doing massage for 22 years, everything is anatomy and muscle and fascia. And now it's, of course we learn too with, from the inside out, and you're going to heal yourself from the inside out. But in meeting all the right people that I'm meeting, it's like you can't do just one thing. It has to all be combined together. And I mean, to me, the functional medicine, we all know now, gut, like your gut health, that's where everything, which if you go to Lisa, she really, because she's got the whole vibes on that. Huh?
It's the root of it all.
Yeah.
No, I lay my little system down.
Yeah.
The thing I love, which I wanted to, I guess one of my goals out of the MAHA moms is to hear the stories, of course. Because there's always a story that brings you to, your present time. But with functional, I look at it like somebody was like taking functional and putting it, same with chiropractic, like we were talking to somebody and they were putting functional like in a different category, like than homeopathy or herbs, right? But if I'm working with you and I feel that you need an herb, that will be part of my treatment protocol. If I want to do homeopathic pellets, that'll be part of my treatment call. Now I'm not maybe certified in it as well as everyone else, but like to me, that's all part of functional. But I'm not an expert in all those things. I'm learning, like, so I do herbs really well, but I want to get a certified. In my mind, I'm like, do I do the next certification in homeopathy, herbs, or aromatherapy? So my whole point was, I think it's great to bring on other people, into my, I've been doing this for so long, my following, and my patients can hear, and people that want to listen to the podcasts are also new people, and they learn from you guys. And, so it can't all just be me, and I'm I'm alone in it. So this is just so fun for me. When Krista is in our church, she said to me, you got to meet Lori. And I was like, okay,
Yeah,
you
right.
do.
Is she the one that works for the nursing? The one that was at the
No,
oh,
that's
that different Krista, the doula. I'm thinking.
Yeah, we were so confused that day. There was, I was
Okay.
like,
yeah.
I was like, which one's dog pass? Who's what?
Yeah.
There's three Kristas.
Yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is that connection with Remnant Healthcare, in when Scott passed, I somehow got connected with CHBMP, which is there for what is it? I can never get it right, but it's crimes against humanity. And because they started seeing this protocol that was used in all the states throughout the country, and why were only the people with COVID dying when they were in the hospital? And they saw that, my husband being pre-diabetic, you start pumping him full of steroids. Well, and now the remdesivir causes kidney failure. So anyone with any type of comorbidity or especially with the kidneys, the treatment, the protocol for COVID was killing them. And so it was like a thing where, you had to be educated on, well, we didn't know at the time. Nobody knew. It's just like over the years. So when I got hooked up with CHBMP, that's how I met these nurses, because they would come on the call and there were nurses quitting. They refused the stick and some were fired. And they were like, there's got to be something better than this. The oath that we took, I mean, they loved their job, they loved their patients, and they knew that these people were dying. And they started this big group and it's throughout the country. And I was like, whoa, you guys rock. Like they're amazing women that had the courage, like Leslie. They're warriors, they're strong women, and not only women, men too, but they ask the right questions, they care about the patients. They're like, no, they can't have that, or don't. And to me, I'm like, wow, this is something that was stripped from me. So in getting involved with them and then meeting all the other amazing practitioners, that it was like, wow, this is like God. You know what, God, okay, I'm listening. All right, like, I'm here, I'm listening. I may just be this little, but all right, guide me. And then Pastor Todd, the church we go to, came to me and said, why don't you think about doing a health ministry? And I was like, oh. And I'm like you, Lisa, like I'm only one person. And even with massage for 22 years, if I knew that I wasn't helping someone, like, you're coming to me, what are you coming to me for? Is it rest and relaxation? Is it pain? Do you have frozen shoulder? Do you have sciatica? Is it a specific thing that you want to get results with? If I see that my treatment plan or what I'm doing for them isn't helping, I'm going to refer them out to somebody who can help them, and get that second opinion. I'm not going to say, hey, no, I want you to keep coming to me every, 2 weeks or whatever. No, like you want to see the person get well. And that's what this whole community,
That is what it's about.
yeah, us all connecting. I mean, all the things that we do are just little components and one person, one thing may work for them. Another person may need 2 or 3 of the modalities or whatever, but I just feel that it's usually not just a one quick fix like people want when they walk into a pharmacy. So,
The other thing I love about, I don't know if we call ourselves alternative healthcare, I'm not too sure what the term is anymore, but is that it's okay to co-care. There's this thing that I've been doing this for a long time, so I always speak from authority now because of like now I'm old. So it's like there's this thing with the medical world that they don't want to co-care. I can't tell you how many doctors will be like, oh, she's a quack, or oh, don't do what she said, or and I'm always saying, go back to the MD who wrote you this and see what they say. Here's what I say, compare. Or they'll bring me the labs from the medical doctor and I'll be like, okay, this is what I see. Let me know what he or she says. Like there's co-caring. If you have a UTI and you want to do the homeopathic way or you want to do the function, like the herbal way, I can give you those protocols, but it's like, what also is your MD saying? Because they ordered the labs, you know what I mean? They're writing you a prescription. I don't know. Like I do a lot of GI work, a lot of, gastroenterology stuff, and they just don't want to co-care. You know, I experienced this right off the get-go when I first got out of school and I worked with cardio. I actually went to cardiologist offices and said that, you know, I could do the nutritional work for you. Because I'm good at it. Like I can reverse the glucose, I can reverse the cholesterol. I'm really good at cleaning up the diet. We do have some difficult cases when you get a healthy person or healthy lifestyle that has high cholesterol. Then we have to dive deeper and go, what is that all about? But for generally, it can really help. You know, like because my father's had 2 open heart surgeries, like I got really good at cleaning him up. And they don't want to. They entertain me for about, you know, 2 or 3 visits, and I realize I'm wasting time bringing brochures and trying to connect, and they just don't want to hear it. It's like they don't want me to get people better. I don't know, maybe because I'm keeping them out of their office. I'm not too sure that, you know, I like to think they're not like think their mindsets like that. But you know, the gastro thing, we can totally keep people from getting surgeries. There's no doubt. Reflux shouldn't even be a thing. Same with most of the cardiac stuff. That's all reversible. Diabetes, it's all reversible by lifestyle.
Well, yeah, but see,
it's hard for me with a co-caring. Like I would co-care with you girls. There's no way I wouldn't. Like the patient just doesn't need me. Like
right. And it's not about, it's like they instill the fear, but like I've seen where, because when people come in and they're filling out the paperwork they fill out, I ask about all the prescription medication they're on. And if someone comes in and they have a different ailment, you know, and it's like, well, were you put on something new? And they're like, they look at me like, well, you're a massage therapist. Why would you even be asking that question? But I'm like, because if it's something that affects, whether it's muscle, tendon, ligament, because there are a lot of medications that do affect, then maybe I shouldn't be working on you. Or if I do, it's really not going to help because you're on that prescription drug. So, you know, I have my book and I refer, you know, online, I look up, there's a organization, it's worstpills.org. And you can look up the medication and see, and it's like, oh, dry eye, or, oh, this or that. And, you know, when you connect it, all I do is I just let them know, you know, this can be caused, muscle weakness can be caused by that. So the results that they think they may get through massage, and that's only massage. I mean, I'm just looking at it topically and musculature, not, you know, internal like you guys deal with. And it's like, once I learned that, yeah, this is things that I have to know about, because people are not asked, they go for a massage, they're not asked if they're on blood thinners. They're not asked if they had any, you know, recent surgery. My clients sign in every time they come in. You know, it's like I served on the licensure board, so I know it's required. Like you have to keep those records because you can cause injury.
yes.
And these people just think that they go to their MD and then they go, well, okay, we put you on this, then okay, now I'm putting you on this, but it's going to cause this. And after my husband died, I've always had low blood pressure. I wound up with high blood pressure. I went to a cardiologist. He walks in the room and it's like, here's the prescription. And I said, well, did you read my list of allergies? Because no, but this isn't, I'm giving you the lowest dose possible. And I'm like, no, I'm going to try naturally. You know, I'm going to try and lower it naturally. And he's like, well, I'm going to call this prescription in for you because I don't think you're going to get the results that, and going on anything herbal or anything, it's going to be up and down, he says to me. So I go home, I pick up the drug, come home, look it up. Causes, not may cause, not can cause, causes early drug-induced Parkinsonism. Now, not everybody goes on and looks up all that stuff, but I'm like, I do massage like for a living. So I'm like, no. And, you know, I said, I'm not doing that. So red hibiscus tea, CoQ10, quercetin. And when I went to the nurse practitioner, when I had my blood work and all that done, and it was 117 over, I don't even know what, and the nurse was like, wow, that's great. I'm like, really? They were going to put me on medication last year. So like, you really, is it right for everybody? No. Would I tell people not to take whatever their doctor prescribes? Never. Like you follow what your doctor prescribes, but educate yourself. That's all I say is educate yourself on what you're putting into your God-given temple. Right, Christine?
Yes. I want to just mention a couple things. One is back to your story about what happened with your husband, I just want to mention to for other people that when you are getting signed in or signing someone in and they tell you to sign the pad, don't. Get it printed, tell them that you want a printed copy and you want to go through and read it and you want to cross out where they just give you injections and you want to like write in no this, no that, no whatever. Because how are we giving a flu shot to a man that is so ill? Like,
It makes
I
no sense.
think like a 5-year-old would know better than that. So that part like makes me crazy. And when my father had a brain bleed a few years ago, and I thank God for our situation that we were injured, because what I learned from that helped me protect myself, my family later on. So when he had that brain bleed, I said to the nurse, put in there, no flu shot, no pneumonia shot. Like, he doesn't need it. He's fine. He had them, you know. And I spoke with one of the nurses, that's one of the advocates. And she's like, yeah, you did the right thing, because assaulting the brain even more, like bad enough, it was like so bad that it was like squished up against, he was in a coma for 2 weeks. He when he came to, he didn't even know who we were. Like, it took him a long time to get back. But he did, and he's 95% better. And if he would have been assaulted by the ingredients, like who knows what the outcome could have been. So I just want to mention that about get it printed out and adjust what it says, because they will automatically. And what they would have done was they would have given him it in the hospital. And then when he went to the rehab, they would just give it again, because they don't feel like going through records, asking questions. Like, I had to tell the rehab too. So, I mean,
Them to print out.
what?
What do you want them to print out?
You
Mhm.
print out the I forget what it's called. It's like, you know, when
The
they have you
intake form?
sign, well, it's not the intake form,
No, it's
like the
it's
Declaration of Bill of Rights or
con-
something.
consent for treatment, where
Yeah,
like when
maybe.
consenting to
Yeah,
what they do, you're
yeah,
giving them full legal right to make
to
the
do
decisions.
whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
not
they do it on the pads now, right? They just get
yes,
that pad
and you
around, like,
don't know what
sign
you're
this, you don't know what
signing.
you're signing.
Mhm.
Yes, and that was terrible that they did that. And what I also want to just mention is like the things that were like popping up like fireworks in my brain when you were talking was, first of all, there's a protocol for COVID. So as soon as you feel it coming on, there's homeopathic remedies that you could take that put it out. Like with my husband, one night he was coming down with it, or the flu or whatever. It doesn't, you don't even need to know if it is that or not. It's just, you know, something that resembles a flu coming on, because they don't discriminate. Like when you're treating homeopathically, it goes by your symptoms, not by, well, it depends. If it's chronic, you do want a diagnosis because there's a set protocol, but for acute things that happen, you can treat according to symptoms. So that's one thing to like prevent everyone else from having to go through anything like this. Take the classes, learn what the protocols are, have them in your house. So when you start to feel it coming on, take it. And like, this is empowerment. I feel so empowered, because when COVID came out, I felt like a sitting duck because I was still on 10 medications every day. I have an immune deficiency specific to pneumonia, so does my son. And I was like, shit, like, so I just started digging and digging and digging. People just thought I was crazy, but honestly, like the more I knew, the better that I felt. So I started like the Zelenko protocol with all the vitamins and all of that. But then the more that I had learned, I felt like I could make a better decision. So I was happy that I was already hooked up with all of the people that were in the medical freedom movement, because they knew that masks cause more harm than good. And like all those protocols, none of them were based on science. You know, it was just I don't even want to say the word because I'll curse, but it was a disaster. Um, but not just that, I wanted to talk about the remedies that came up for me for you. Like, there's a remedy that I would love to try for you for your hard of hearing deafness. Like, you never know. This works on such a level that anything is possible. So that I was thinking, like when you said with the your, especially when you just said with your blood pressure going up afterwards, like aconite. that was a shock to your system. Like that could
Mm.
totally help you, you know, as far as just like uprooting that kind of thing. Um, and then treating your anaphylaxis, like I would love to give you the protocols to have on hand. So if anything does pop up, you have it, you know, and then when you take the classes, okay, whatever, but just to have it in your home. Um, and then, you know, there's a couple different ones, so we'll go over that. And I forget what else, but there's definitely tools. There's tools. And everybody just needs to decide on where they're ready to start. And just, I mean, education is definitely the key, because even with like these gateway classes that are just basic classes, you learn the ins and the outs, and the different things that you, how you handle things and what you avoid. And it's once you learn how to just do the basics and you have your books, you can figure it all out. And like you said about building a community, like I want, when I get done with school and I start my classes, like that's what I want, is a community, so that like in the middle of the night, if something happens and I don't have the remedy, but oh my God, let me call so and so and see if
Mm. Yeah.
she has it. Because that's what just happened with our other friend. She had a dental infection and she's like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. And I was like, I just went through this 2 weeks ago. Like, come get the stuff. I'll put it in my mailbox. Just drive up and grab it, you know? So I do think that community is so huge. As far as being in the medical freedom movement. And I just want people to know that you can help yourself naturally. And, you know, there's a time and a place for medicine, but there's a lot that can be done in your own home. So,
Definitely.
And not just even with the you know, for me, when I lost Scott, like I saw a lot of people within the, you know, crimes against humanity group where, you know, it's turning to alcohol or to drugs just to numb your pain. That's not me. So I really threw myself into my faith, and my faith grew tremendously. And I think that's the only reason why today I have the passion I do, is because like I feel God has my back. You know, on my bedroom wall it says, give it to God and go to sleep. So it's like, Lord, give it to me and put your head on the pillow and go to sleep. And I hear that all the time. And I'm thinking, you know, that, thank God I found my faith, because it kept me on the straight and narrow to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that I'm continuing to move forward, and we are going to change lives and help people, you know, and the only way I'm going to do that is if I first help myself. And all the signs that um you know, Pastor Todd always says, talk to God, like talk to him, hello, talk to him. And you know, when you really start praying, talking to God, you see all these amazing things happen in your life, and you're introduced to the right people, like you two, um the people that come into your life and give you the encouragement, and then you weed out the people that don't, you know. But I feel that my faith is what has brought me to where I'm at, and I share that openly. And I know that that's where my husband is, because he was a really good Christian who listened to the Bible on his radio going to work every single morning, and he was better with his faith than I was. And I feel his leaving me, like he's waiting for, I know where he's at, and I have all the faith that I'm going to be with him again. So in everything. And I love that even Remnant Healthcare, they're a ministry. They believe in that, you know, let people leave their body with dignity. Let the family pray over them at home, you know, let things be, instead of this stripping and, you know, how horrible of an experience you have in the hospital. So I feel faith has a lot to do with it all. So I love that you girls are, you know, this is like a ministry, you know, we were called to do this. So
Yeah. And I feel like Scott's okay. He's in a great place and God's on the receiving end of that, you know? So I don't know. I had this dream once that when my dad was having one of the surgeries, I guess I was freaking out, and this man appeared, and it was Jesus, you know? And I was in shock in the dream. And I remember him just like taking me and saying, no matter what happens, you know, death or my father no matter what happens to my father in the surgery, it's like, I'm on the receiving end. Like, I'm here. Like, stop it. And it was just literally like, it's always resonated with me, and I share it with everyone, because it's like, he is on the receiving end no matter what happens.
Mhm.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
there's peace in that. I feel like there's just peace in that,
It will get
Yeah.
you through the darkest day for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're surrounding yourself, like the good people that, like you're saying with a dream, I had a dream. I was telling my grandson the night before last night, and I don't dream of Scott often, because I'm not a big like dreamer. If I do, I forget what I dreamt. But he was like physically next to me. And it was just like the smell of him and the safety of him, that is, what you miss the most when you're married to your soulmate. And it was like, he's sitting next to me, and I don't know who was with us. We're at a table, and I'm like, do you guys see him? Like, and I'm poking his arm, and I'm like, he's really here. Like, you see him too? Or is it just, and they're like, no, we see him. And he didn't say a word he just looked at me and he smiled like, really, Laura, and I thought maybe because with Good Friday and the resurrection coming, that like, I was just seeing like him in his physical form. But I woke up like feeling so good about the dream, and I'm like,
Come visit you in your dreams. I
Yeah, he
believe
visited you. Yeah.
yeah. So you know what, we're all, I feel, and you know what, we're all gonna leave our physical body eventually. I look at it as like where we're like in the moth stage, and then, well, the caterpillar stage, and then you go into the cocoon, and then you come out this beautiful butterfly. So this is just our shell. This is just the tent that we're camped out in, and eventually we're moving. This is so short, our life here. So it's like, how much good can we do in the short amount of time we're here? So
Exactly. I look at it like, I'm here to serve him by
Mhm.
helping as many people as I can, and that's it. Just,
Yeah.
Well, everyone, we are at the end. I think we went over our time, but it was a good one. We're gonna have Lori back quite often. We're hoping. We've asked her, because what we want to do is bring the aromatherapy side in too. So if we're talking about anxiety, I think the next one's going to be, we talked about allergies, right? So this is a great one where she can come in and talk about the aromatherapy that could help you. We've got the homeopathy side. That's such a difficult word sometimes. And the functional side. So we're just be able to give you more and more information on each podcast when we do specific ailments or illnesses, or whatever you want to term them as, symptoms. Right?
Perfect timing for the allergy one. So that'll work out good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see more of Lori.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, and have a great holiday, since there's a holiday coming up.
Yes. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.